And I was like, girl, are you married? Have you ever been married? Do you have children? Because like it's easy for people to dole out advice when they're not in the positions that they're talking about. It's easy for me to talk about all of these things. It was easy for me to say what I would do when I had kids. When I had a kid, I can tell you my perspective shifted. Y'all, we gotta talk about Cheyenne Bryant. I want to first of all talk about who I am and what my credentials are for anybody watching who this is your first time seeing me, you don't know who I am. How am I qualified to speak on Dr. Cheyenne? So my name is Dr. Janice Asare. I have a PhD. My PhD is in psychology, organizational psychology, and I want to speak on this topic that Dr. Raquel Martin brought up about the validity of licensure and why I feel like Cheyenne Bryant is a scam artist. So we don't actually know if she's a doctor. That's number one. We have to call a thing. The only reason that people are listening to her is because she's beautiful, because she's light-skinned, and colorism is obviously going to be at play because people are going to be more likely to believe somebody who is light-skinned and has pretty privilege over somebody who is not light-skinned, right? And so colorism plays a big role in this conversation and why so many folks are caping for Cheyenne Bryant, even though her credentials are shady. According to what I read and what I saw online, people are saying she doesn't have a doctorate because the university where she allegedly got her doctorate from lost their accreditation the year she earned her doctorate. So I don't think that that means she actually earned her doctorate. And also there's no evidence of a dissertation. When you complete a doctorate, I don't know whether her doctorate is a PhD or what type of doctorate. I believe that some people are presuming that she has a PhD, but when you complete a PhD, you have to complete a dissertation. And your dissertation is available under ProQuest for anybody that looks for it. If you're affiliated with a university, you should be able to read a dissertation under ProQuest for free, I believe. If you're not affiliated with a institution, with the academic institution, you can just read the abstract. But I also saw online that Cheyenne Bryant is not her real name, which may explain why nobody can find any information about her. There's a lot of just questionable things floating around online. And my thing is, like, if you're actually a doctor and have earned a doctorate, why not just shut people up and show the evidence that you are a doctor? If anybody was questioning my credentials, I have a dissertation that I can just send out. I can show in Google Scholar where my dissertation is. And I find it interesting that Dr. Cheyenne Bryant doesn't have a LinkedIn page. And I think that everybody has a LinkedIn page. And I think when you know you're scamming and you're doing stuff you're not supposed to be doing, you're not going to have a LinkedIn page because people can check on you and people can look you up and people can see where you went to school, what jobs you had. So I think it's interesting that someone of her caliber doesn't have a LinkedIn page. But for those who are like, what am I even talking about? So this woman named Cheyenne Bryant has been making some headlines and making some waves because she made comments on the Joe Budden podcast where she basically said she doesn't have a license anymore. The way she worded it made it sound like she once had a license and she didn't do what needed to be done to renew her license. But other people are saying that when you look her up, she was never licensed.
And that's what people don't understand. No longer practice under a license.
And why
Now I'm
would
in
we?
private practice, I'm saying. And that's what people don't understand, right? So just to educate some folks a little bit.
But she's somebody who purports to be a therapist. And even though Cheyenne Bryant herself said or claimed that she never said she was a therapist, I saw this video on Instagram which actually says otherwise.
I just had a conversation with somebody on Threads who posted this. Cheyenne Bryant never referred to herself as a therapist. So I then posted the receipts of her actually presenting herself as a therapist. This is something that is posted on her highlights right now, where she posted an article written by someone at NBC where they referred to her as a marriage and family therapist. This is posted on her page. When I showed this to the woman on Threads, her response was this, essentially saying that that's an article saying that she was a therapist. That's not her saying that she's a therapist. If she reposted an article that was written by her calling her a therapist, that is her intentionally spreading misinformation. And when it comes to these small publications, everyone knows that you can write in or pay to have an article written about you. And even if that wasn't the case with this particular article, they did not just claim that she was a marriage and family therapist out of nowhere. They got that information from her. I also mentioned the fact that there is a video out there where, while telling a story of a past client, she said these words.
It's so powerful. It was like my first year being a therapist.
The girl was still going back and forth with me, debating on whether a license is needed to practice in the mental health field. I just don't understand why so many people think that this is okay. If there was a person pretending to be a medical doctor, doing surgeries, seeing patients, treating patients, but did not have a license or the degree required to be a medical doctor, I feel like people will understand a little bit more. There is no way that anyone would allow a surgeon to perform surgery on them or anybody they love if the surgeon said that they're not licensed and licensing is not important. And let's just call a thing a thing. The only reason why y'all are defending her, the only reason why y'all are arguing back and forth online with actual professional therapists, with people who have earned not only the degrees, but the license to practice therapy, is because of how she look. The way that people are arguing and defending this woman is the same how people argue and defend the president of the United States, even though it's been proven that he is not qualified to do the job that he's doing. I get that y'all like her. I get that she is pretty. I get that the body is tea. But we have to be so fucking for real. Nobody should be misrepresenting themselves as a therapist. Nobody should be calling themselves a doctor in a professional setting if their doctorate is an honorary degree. Nobody should be seeing clients or having sessions if they are not licensed or have the education to do so. I don't even know why this is up for debate. Y'all tripping.
So obviously she purports herself to be a therapist. And that is very dangerous because in order to treat patients, you have to be licensed in the state that you are operating in within the US. There are rules and guidelines for a reason. And while part of this whole kerfuffle with Cheyenne Bryant has brought up the conversation of how the system itself is and can be discriminatory and can disenfranchise Black and other marginalized folks, the system itself isn't broken per se, but it's those who are within the system that use the system in inequitable ways. So that doesn't mean that the system itself, the requirements to actually get a licensure are not valid, right? Do you want somebody operating on you who doesn't have a license, who's not a board certified physician? No. And I've seen people online say, well, she's not giving people medicine or she's not treating patients, but she actually is. She's treating your mind. When you're a therapist, you're helping people navigate whatever it is that they are challenged by or going through, right? If I'm somebody with schizophrenia, it's not wise for me to go to somebody who's not a licensed therapist to offer me and provide me with care. And just because she's not physically doing anything with the body doesn't mean her work with patients isn't important and impactful. And I will also say that yes, there is a valid point that having a license doesn't make somebody a good therapist. And you could say the opposite, where lacking a license doesn't mean you're not able to provide people with help and support who are navigating things, but there's a lot of harm that can be done and no oversight when you're somebody who's operating as a therapist, but you're not licensed. And Dr. Raquel Martin brought up so many great points in her video. I will link her video below. There were some people in her comments who were saying she was a hater, who was saying she's bringing another Black woman down. But to me, somebody who's for the Black community will be willing to call out the grifters and the scammers. Somebody that I really, really respect a lot on this here YouTube is a YouTuber named Cam James, because he is always calling out scammers. He called out somebody I used to follow named Rashad Ritchie. And I don't know if this man has doctorates. I don't know what his credentials are, but to me, like, people like Rashad Ritchie and Cheyenne Bryant just prove that you can work for these big networks. You know, you can work for, I guess, the Young Turks or MTV, and people don't actually double check your credentials. You could call yourself a doctor and be out here frauding and scamming. And I think that if you are claiming to be something, it is okay. And it is actually, people should be questioning your credentials, because like my friend Dr. Sam said, we live in a time and an age of anti-intellectualism, and people just rely on AI and ChatGPT. People don't know how to research. People don't know how to fact check anymore, because AI just does everything for people. And anyone out here with a honorary doctorate, and I'm not saying Cheyenne Bryant has an honorary doctorate, but that's another one of my pet peeves, is like people out here with honorary doctorates calling themselves doctors. I don't necessarily have an issue with honorary doctorates, but I think if you earned a doctorate, that's vastly different from an honorary doctorate, which you got because of maybe your social justice work or your community service, or because you're famous, right? Like, you having an honorary doctorate you should tell people that your doctorate is honorary and not claim to be a doctor, which is what so many people out here are doing. They have these fake schools, there's so many people, and because they're Black, we give them the second and third and the fourth benefit of a doubt. And it's like, no, some of these folks are just scammers and grifters. And Cheyenne Bryant, one of the most dangerous and harmful things she said on the Joe Budden podcast to me was, she didn't say, I decided not to pursue licensure because I can help more patients. Her wording was, I decided to pursue, or I did not want to pursue licensure because I make more money without it. So it's about money for her. It's not about helping people in need or helping patients. It's about money. And to me, I don't want a therapist who went into the business of therapy solely to make money, right? I don't want honestly, I don't know if I even want a doctor who went into the field to make money. I want somebody who's actually passionate about the work that they do and wants to actually help people. There is a certain amount of effort and tenacity and energy that is required to earn a doctorate. And I think that these grifters that come in and infiltrate are watering down the effort that it takes to actually earn these degrees and these qualifications. I don't think I'm speaking from a place of elitism, because this would be my take regardless of my education, right? If I had a bachelor's, if I didn't have no bachelor's, I would still feel like this lady's a grifter, because if you are legit, show your papers. Where's your paperwork, right? If you actually have a doctorate and you hear the chatter about your doctorate and people are saying, you don't have a doctorate in clinical psychology. I saw something on Threads that my friend sent me that said her allegedly Cheyenne Bryant's dissertation advisor claimed that she plagiarized parts of her dissertation. I don't know how true that is, but if there are allegations coming out about me, and she's on the internet, she sees what people are saying because she's responded to things, why not just show your receipts? If anybody questioned me about anything, I told y'all in the last video, the JD Vance video that I made, that this reporter, I think I shared this, that this reporter tried to say that I lied about my clients. I have receipts, I have emails, I have all kinds of stuff, right? I didn't show it to the the reporter because it's none of his business. But I have receipts, and I'm somebody that, like, I think all you have in this life is your name, and integrity is so important. And there's so many people that are propped up and pedestalized, and it's like wild when they're caught in their scams. People still take up for them. People are still defending Stormy, what's her name, Stormy Wellington. She's a scammer. These people are scammers. When the proof is in the pudding, so many of us still want to hold on to this pedestalized image, this pedestalized person, right? Malcolm already warned us that we should not be pedestalizing these random people, right? Like, who is Cheyenne Bryant, and why do we pedestalize her in the first place? I know, me personally, I used to follow her. I started following her maybe a year or so ago when I saw her on the Cam Newton podcast. I don't watch Cam Newton's podcast. I didn't even know he really had a podcast, maybe until that interview. And I was like, she really checked him. I like her. And I went to her Instagram page and I saw, okay, she has a doctorate. That's what's up. Pretty black woman with a doctorate. She earns my follow. And then she started getting weird. She's like a little bit of like in the pink pill. And like another thing to me that made me feel like she was a grifter was because she's always, first of all, you're always on these male podcasts that are not going to challenge you. You're not going to ever debate with somebody that can go bar for bar with you. You're on these podcasts with these men that don't have the range to debate you on the issues that you're talking about, right? And I will say it was very disappointing as a huge fan of Mark Lamont Hill that he sat there on Joe Budden's podcast as somebody with a legit Ph.D. and did not like question. It didn't look like he questioned Cheyenne Bryant. I will say I didn't watch the episode. I only saw the clips, but it didn't look like he pushed back at all or questioned her. But Cheyenne Bryant has said, I've seen clips probably on her page where she said, she said something along the lines of like, a married woman should, as a married woman, your body, I don't know if she used these exact words, but like, as a married woman, your body belongs to your husband.
Because I'm not into casual sex. So
No,
part
you're
of how
in the relationship.
Yeah, I'm into it. What I'm saying is
Yeah.
because I'm not into casual sex, part of how I connect and express my love is also through the act of making love. And it's also through allowing my husband to use my body as a vessel for his satisfaction. See, a lot of women have a problem with that. And I'm not knocking them. They do. But what I'm saying is for me, but that's a love language for me. So for me, like, right, if my husband is saying, you know, in the morning, I just want a quickie before I go to work, I don't take it as he's getting a quickie because he's using me, he doesn't love me. I take it as, oh my God, like I'm being used by my husband. He's using my body as a vessel to satisfy him.
And I was like, girl, are you married? Have you ever been married? Do you have children? Because like, it's easy for people to dole out advice when they're not in the positions that they're talking about. It's easy for me to talk about all of these things. It was easy for me to say what I would do when I had kids. When I had a kid, I can tell you my perspective shifted vastly. And so it seems like she's always out here, you know, and those things will get you to go viral when you're doing the debates about black men and black women and relationships. And she's always out here, from what I see, talking about marriage, talking about, girl, you are not married. And it would be one thing if I'm not one of those people that thinks you need to be married in order to give good and valid and solid advice about partnership. But if you're not licensed, based on what you said, your doctorate is questionable, you allegedly have a background in family, you know, you're a licensed a licensed marriage and family therapist or counselor or whatever, but that's questionable, your credentials are questionable. What gives you the right or the ability to offer advice on what married people should and shouldn't do? Like, it's one thing to be married. I think there's validity in that. You're actually living what you talk about. You could talk about something that you live, but again, not all people give good, advice. I know a lot of people who are married, a lot of women who are married who are male centered. So the advice that they give is questionable, right? I don't think you need to be married to give good advice about marriage, but I think Cheyenne Bryant is not checking any boxes. She seems like somebody that just parrots talking points that she knows will go viral. And I was like, it's easy for somebody who's never had children, who doesn't know what it's like to have your body shift and change during childbirth, to say something like that because you've never been married and you haven't had any children. So it's easy to be like, this is what you should do. This is what you should do. But girl, you are not. That's when I started to feel like, this lady a fraud. This lady, I don't know if she knows what she's talking about, right? I'm married. I've been married for several years. I would never be out here giving advice to married people, because just because I'm married or just because I have a child doesn't mean I am an expert. And I recognize that, right? I recognize that even someone with a doctorate like me in psychology, even though it's organizational psychology, I would never be out here giving psychology advice, right? Cheyenne Bryant calls herself a psychology expert. What makes you a psychology expert? Girl, so those are my thoughts. I wanted to share my thoughts as somebody who has earned a PhD, who knows the rigor and the tenacity and the strength and the difficulty that it takes to earn a PhD. To see somebody like Cheyenne Bryant being able to grift all because she's pretty, and Black folks are still following her and taking up for her, is wild to me. I saw somebody commented on social media and they said, I see why so many people easily fall for cults. And I think this is like cult-like behavior. The fact that people are defending her so heavily and so hard when her credentials are shaky and questionable is just wild to me. You're not out here defending Dr. Raquel Martin, who has a legitimate doctorate, legitimate credentials that you can Google and you can look up, but you're over here defending that lady. Got it. I think we have to be more discerning in this age of anti-intellectualism. We have to be even more discerning because folks out here see how easy it is to grift. Black folks see how easy it is to grift within our own communities, and the grifters are grifting and we are just eating it up, right? I think we just need to be more discerning. We need to be asking for folks' papers and folks' receipts much more. And so those are my thoughts, again, as somebody with a PhD who was a follower of Cheyenne Bryant. Like, I followed her on Instagram. I liked her on the Cam Newton show, and now I see she's a grifter. So let me know your thoughts, and I will see y'all in the next video.